Jesse, I see you. Can you hear me?
We're good to go.
Perfect. Thank
Morning,
you.
everybody.
Morning. Hang tight.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jesse.
Action.
Well, now we can see him.
Mark, I trust you're doing well.
A lot better than I was a few weeks ago.
Amen.
It's going to take a longer than my patience has, but but I got Bruce here. He's been through it, so he's giving me coaching him.
Okay, it is 10:30 a.m. on Thursday, February 12th. I would like to officially call the City of Nisswa special meeting to order. We have one agenda item on this special council meeting, which is the Economic Development Authority / Commission council discussion, and then in parentheses, council motion. Before we get started, I would just like to have the following information noted for the minutes. Ms. Wentler, if you could identify for us the two council members that called today's meeting, that would be great.
Zahn and Hall. And Hall had a family emergency, so he will not be here tonight.
Okay,
Or
got
today.
it.
It's morning.
Hopefully everything is okay. Council, I just wanted to note with this specific special council meeting, this is the second time within 2 weeks that this meeting was scheduled, canceled, and then rescheduled. And just a friendly reminder for all of us that special meetings do create additional costs for taxpayers, including things like our attorney's time, special meeting compensation for us, pulling staff away from their responsibilities in the office. And also, when we schedule meetings that have limited notice during the weekday at 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday, we really restrict public accessibility and participation. And even Tyler, who is a key stakeholder in this for his knowledge with Bladek, like he's got a hard stop at 11 for other meetings. So I would encourage us to really think about that moving forward. And think about respecting the public and time so we can have full transparency, participation, and accessibility. And also on that note, I do want to say, as we all know, we do have final interviews next Tuesday morning for the city administrator clerk position, with the expectation that we would ideally have an individual coming on board and a new administrative leader in place shortly following those final interviews. So I also think for us as a city and a council, it would also be beneficial to think about including that new staff leader's perspective on something as important as economic development for our city moving forward. And I was trying to look through it because I didn't see anything in the packet, but I didn't see any information in there or with the call of this meeting that indicated such a level of urgency that warranted this special meeting today when we do have our regular scheduled council meeting next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I know Council Member Hall is not here. Council Member Zahn, I don't know if you have any perspective you can share on what the critical time perspective of doing this meeting today was versus our council meeting in 3 business days from now.
We are at hand right now, needing to get information over to the city attorney to be able to prepare what could and hopefully will be an economic development authority or committee. So in order for us to be able to do that and vote on it as a council to authorize it, we have some fine details that we still have to hammer out here. And hoping that this meeting can accommodate that to be able to give the city attorney what he would need from the entire city council's perspective to be able to move forward with this or not.
And just a follow up to that, is there a reason we are in kind of a rush, or urgency to do that versus waiting until we have a key staff partner on board with the city administrator clerk and having kind of their past history, expertise, guidance, because we kind of have been without that position for some time?
Well, we've been without a full-time city administrator since, I want to say close to a year now. So
April.
been, moving under that guise, we still need to, I think, from my perspective, continue to move the city's business forward as much as possible. And I'm hopeful that these interviews next week will land us a full-time city administrator without knowing when they would start. This investment that the city's made in this property, for example, having an economic development authority be able to be made up from whomever will be on it will continue to help move that project forward. So in regards to the timing of it, we've just kind of been in this limbo for the last, I would say, better part of a year. So urgency, I don't know if I'd want to use the word urgency. Apologize if this is disrupting anybody's schedule, but working diligently to try to keep things moving forward, as that's what the city deserves.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's get into it. So since we've had a couple of conversations and we've had Tyler here multiple times with us to kind of give his experience and leadership regarding an EDA, and then we got into the discussion last time around an EDC. I did a little digging, in the time since. I don't know if anyone else had the opportunity to do that. But one of the things that I found is that in our Nisswa City Ordinance, Section 2-125B, number 8, it states that the city already has an economic development authority in place. And under Minnesota State Statute 469.091, establishment of an economic development authority requires council adoption of an enabling resolution that would have codified that in our city ordinances. So if you go and look at our ordinances, the last amendment to our city ordinances occurred on October 21st of 2020, meaning that this economic development authority has been in place at least since then. And when I did look at that last revision, the EDA that is already codified in city law was not actually included as a revision. So it's been in place sometime longer than that October 21st, 2020. And, under Minnesota statute, you can't have one without the other, right? You can't have it in city law if you didn't have the enabling resolution. And I don't know if anyone here has a copy of that enabling resolution today, but I think it's critical because that original enabling resolution likely outlined things that actually Mr. Glenn brought to our attention in previous presentations, is the size of the authority, right? Its composition and membership structure. Was it all the council members that just made it up? Was it a few council members and members of the public or the community? It could have also included things like meeting frequency and governance requirements. And so, Mr. Pearson, I don't know if you happen to have a copy of that enabling resolution today, or Ms. Wentler, if you have a copy of that enabling resolution today, but I feel like it's critical for us as a council to be able to review that enabling resolution that already codified an EDA, which sits in our city law today. Does anyone by chance have a copy of that? Or any council members?
I didn't even know we had one.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Pearson.
It looks like it is. I think it is, yeah. Just a second.
And here, gentlemen, is a copy of that. If you guys want it. Yep, if Ron wants one too.
Is that just the ordinance provision that you're passing?
Yeah, it's just, this is,
No, I don't need to see it.
okay.
Are you suggesting?
Ms. Wentler, do you want to see a copy of this? Got it.
Jesse, I have it. I'm sending you a picture of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no question that the ordinance makes reference to an EDA. And there's no question that there has been an EDA operating in the city in the past. And so in this process, I've asked city staff to find out what information we have about how that EDA was formed, any minutes of meetings, anything that disbanded the EDA, because we've heard that word, that there was an EDA, but that it was disbanded. We can't find anything in our archives that disbanded the EDA, nor can we find an enabling resolution that created it in the first place. Am I talking out of turn?
Well, I found something at one point in time, and maybe it just, let me see if I can find it, but I thought there was one at one point in time that disbanded the EDA. Was that in 2017, Tyler? Okay.
And Maggie, maybe you sent me that. I know you sent me some stuff, but I don't remember seeing that specific
So
resolution.
If I can just say something, is when I came in 2021, I was asking about if there was an EDA or EDC, and I was told no.
but
So
there are two, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. There are a couple issues here then. So,
this is just kind of surprising. I'm sorry, Mayor.
right, but if staff had found anything that disbanded the EDA or whatnot, that should have been included in this packet prior to this meeting, right? We should have had the ability to see that. The other note on that is if there was something that disbanded this, it's still codified in our city law. So why was there not a public hearing then to change our ordinances to remove it? Because it's still there. And so this, what is unclear to me is if the city council at some time passed a law saying that we have an economic development authority, and our city ordinance is crystal clear that it says that, but we're claiming it's disbanded, there needed to be proper steps and processes that we would have gone through to remove that from our city code, because right now it is in our ordinances. Mr. Pearson, it looks like you have something to add.
I just ask you for a second to stop over talking this. Will you, Maggie, will you put back up there that first,
Yes, this one.
is that the complete? Is there anything further up resolution? Okay.
Closing out
Well,
economic,
that's, okay, so that's with respect to the fund, right?
correct. I just can't access my email from this
Yeah,
computer,
okay,
but
so in my opinion, that's not a disbanding resolution. That's a resolution that just declares that the city doesn't operate an EDA any longer and that the EDA funds are transferred over to the general fund. So that would certainly be a piece that would have been part of concluding an EDA at the time. But I still don't see that we have anything in our records where a resolution has been made to disband the EDA. I don't know that it matters a lot, okay? Because whether there is an EDA in effect that didn't get properly disbanded or we're starting fresh here, we can still populate a current resolution that makes reference to the question about that and basically says that to the extent that there's a resolution disbanding the former EDA, this resolution will now recreate the EDA, or if there's a resolution out there that we're not aware of and the EDA is still alive, then let's consider this an amended resolution with respect to how the EDA will operate. So I don't know that it matters terribly that we can't find that. We can structure this resolution, if there's going to be one, regarding this current EDA in a way that covers either base. And I don't have any comment necessarily about our ordinance and what it says about an EDA, and that should have been revised if there wasn't an EDA. I don't know that it matters now because we're talking about going forward with an EDA and a resolution of some sort which will make that happen. So from my standpoint, the conversation today needs to be to inform Tyler and I about what you want this EDA to be, what powers you want it to have, what powers you don't want it to have, so that we can put together the appropriate resolution that you can approve that will then put this EDA either back on track if it still exists or reformulate it if it got disbanded.
Mr. Pearson, I'm not in full alignment and agreement with what you're stating because the conversation for this agenda item today is for the council to consider either an economic development authority or an economic development commission or committee. And so if the council chooses to move in a direction of an EDC versus an EDA by majority vote, then we would have to go through the subsequent processes of then. And this is why I do think it's important. I don't know why an enabling resolution doesn't exist because by state law, it has to exist, that then there would have to be a motion to rescind that enabling resolution, which is certainly a possibility. But then if the council wanted to go down the path of an EDC versus an EDA, now we're getting into things where we are changing city ordinance. And that does require proper notice, public hearing, right, time, allowing the public to be involved in this. If the council chooses to stay on the path of an EDA, an EDA is already codified in our city ordinance. To your point, yes, we would need an appropriate enabling resolution by state law. But I think the prudent and responsible thing to do for city government and for the people is to make sure, even if state law doesn't require us to take steps A, B, C, D, and E, why not cut corners? Why not do the due diligence, go through the process, include the public, do things that is right, not because state law mandates us to do it, because it's the right thing to do by the people.
Nobody's
And the
suggesting-
creation of this, Mr. Pearson, I have not recognized you yet. The creation of this, whichever it is, will fall on the council majority vote. But I am disappointed that staff and our city attorney were looking into things behind the scenes, and none of this was included in the packet. That is not right to the public, and it's not fair to us as elected officials. We need the opportunity to be able to look into these things, to assess, understand, and analyze, so we can come into these meetings educated, informed, thoughtful with details, and not just pass it on to maybe, one council member or two if that happened. I don't know if it did or didn't, but we all have to receive things equally. And we're going to start taking a more professional and respectful approach in this council chamber as we move forward. So what Maggie has on the board, I think it would be wonderful if we could all have a copy of that, either in our inboxes or printed before we leave today. If council is prepared to have a discussion on the path of an EDA or an EDC, we can certainly have that. We have this on the agenda for Tuesday. We can table this until Tuesday so we can get more inputs as well. Councilmember Fraley, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to speak first,
I'm
please.
recognizing Councilmember Fraley first, Mr. Pearson.
Had enough
That is fine.
of the bully pulpit.
I concede my time to the city attorney, if he will so have. To move forward, I don't think we need an economic authority. I would like to have a committee, but I don't know where we stand right now with everything that you're putting up there. So that's just where I stand.
Councilmember London?
I'm with Mark on that. I think we need to go ahead with our plan.
With
Economic.
committee or an
No.
EDA?
EDA.
Okay, I
Definitely.
don't know if I don't see Councilmember Zahn, but if Councilmember Zahn would like to weigh in?
Just so I heard that clearly, because I'm trying to pick up what's being said on the microphone, was Councilmember Freely and Councilmember London, what was their stance? They are for?
They are in favor of an
Committee.
EDC over an EDA.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
My reason, if I can give you reason for that, if you'd like.
Sure,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
But my reasoning is because I just don't want to add another taxing authority or committee that has the authority to tax without the council's input.
In response to,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilmember Zahn.
in response to that, I have a question for Mr. Glynn. If an EDA is, if that's a route that the city would go, does the EDA then have the opportunity, or would we be able to exclude the taxing authority provision from an E EDA?
Yes, you would.
Okay.
What you would be able to do is, if you saw a project, just as an example, if you saw a project worth the city making an investment into it, you could, based on council vote, move forward with setting a tax for that particular year. You have as the EDA, you have the ability to tax or not tax. So you can look at this in a couple ways. One is that, again, if there's a project worth taxing the citizens for, you can do that. You don't need to. The city of Baxter does not execute a EDA tax each year. The city of Brainerd does. So there are some differences out there, but you have the ability on an annual basis to determine whether or not you would enable the tax as your EDA. But I would suggest that you don't do that. I would just suggest if you do have a project that the EDA feels like that they need funding for, you can, I hate to say it this way, is you can turn it on and turn it off, but you really can. So you don't have to have you do not have to put a tax forward just by creating an EDA.
And Mr. Glenn,
Mhm.
just to be correct, the EDA, Councilmember Fairley, to your point, you don't want to add another body that has taxing authority, but ultimately the council has to adopt it.
That is correct.
It can't, the EDA can't just say, hey, we want these funds for project A and
Right.
this is level of, it still has to come through council. And we as council, like you said, like the city of Baxter versus the city of Brainerd, we could still say, hey, thank you for the work. We like this idea. However, we're not comfortable with this additional tax.
Correct. It just gives, an EDA establishment just gives you the ability to enact a tax, but you don't have to.
Mhm.
Okay, since I wasn't at the meeting that
Mhm.
a lot of that came out and just how I've seen them work in the past. So if we go with an EDA, they could recommend a tax or recommend some funding. The council then would have an up or down on that. So it's not like they can go like some authorities where they say, yep, and add it onto the levy. Okay,
They cannot.
good. That was a good clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
What
welcome.
about like TIF or, and then the other thing would be, because EDAs, correct me if I'm wrong, do have powers in the sense that they could determine who are the projects we want to give priority to, who are the
Mhm.
potential maybe developers that we see around those projects. So in that sense, does the EDA have those broad powers to, I'm saying this wrong, but to pick the winners and the losers,
They
so
do
to
not.
speak?
They do not, because it is the city, if you were looking at a TIF project, which is tax increment financing, or there's also another option is tax abatement, and tax abatement isn't used a lot anymore. But the TIF project, if there was a project that the city looked at and said, or the EDA recommended, offering TIF financing to that project, they do not have the authority to do that themselves. That has to come through the council.
Okay,
Yep,
so the council still
correct.
maintains the perspective that we were elected and we do cast those votes.
Creating an EDA for the city gives some separation, if you want to say it that way. It gives the EDA the ability to work on projects, to guide staff, to guide me on projects to work forward to. Then they would still, projects that require any type of assistance would still need to come back through the council for full council approval.
Okay. Um, I'm not opining either way on EDA or EDC, but the one thing I would note, and again, I'm not speaking in favor, I just am trying to put facts on the table for everyone to consider. If the council chooses to go with an EDC, just keep in mind, an EDC really doesn't have any teeth. It's like the liquor committee, right? It's a group of people that are appointed, and sure, we want their expertise, their value and knowledge, but ultimately, it's like the liquor committee, there's no teeth. We can motion on things in the liquor committee, it doesn't really matter because it still comes back to the council. Whereas I think an EDA has a little more weight behind it. Council members, you have expressed some concerns with an EDA. I think Mr. Glenn has tried to do a good job in explaining things, but I just wanted to note that as one major difference between the two. Then are we just creating another level of bureaucracy? Is it even needed, right? The second thing I would say is, if we do go down the path, if council decides to go down the path of an EDC, which is absolutely an option, just keep in mind too, based on what we cited here earlier in the meeting, we already have an EDA codified in city ordinance. So that's not a reason to do or not to do something. But if we're going to change it, we are going to need to follow the process of a public hearing, public notice, right? Going through that, all those steps, in which it seems like some council members felt this was more of let's keep it moving, not that this would delay it. So just factoring all that in. Obviously, on the flip side of it, we have heard from multiple members of the public and business owners that are adamantly against an EDA, right? So we've kind of heard all angles here, but that's really up for council to decide. I know Mr. Glenn has a hard stop in about 7 minutes. I don't know if you want to add anything else before I turn it back here to council.
Yeah, if I could, and your points are valid, Mayor Carnahan. The one thing I would say about an EDC is an EDC is, as you mentioned, is just an advisory board, and they're made up of just community members. No, there are no sitting council members that are allowed to be on an EDC. So that group is appointed by the council. The council then takes recommendations from an EDC to move projects forward, to do different things. If they're looking at marketing, if they're looking at how to promote the city, the EDCs typically do that. So they're really they don't carry really any power. And power is not the proper word, I guess.
So if I jump in here real
Yeah.
quick, so the C ends up to just, okay, this is what we can do, but they don't have anything. And the authority, okay, that was a good clarification that you had. They basically keep the ball rolling.
Correct.
So, okay, yep. So I am very changeable on my position.
Councilmember London before, because Mr. Glenn does have to go to another meeting. Do you have any questions for him before he leaves? Okay, Councilmember Zahn, do you have any questions for Mr. Glenn before he has to jump off?
Just in regards to the document that Tyler, that you shared with us at the last meeting regarding EDA, you had a 2-page document of what an EDA can do and the key functions. Would you believe that to be proper guidance for us to consider in regards to perhaps asking the city attorney to draft a formal resolution so we have some guiding principles? That was originally what Councilmember Hall and I were discussing, is we don't want to continue to let more and more time pass. We'd like to try to get this to a council vote and have everybody's ideas of an economic development authority or committee on the table so we can start moving forward. Specifically in regards to the property out on 371. Do you have any suggestions for us so we can make use of this time for perhaps a council motion to direct the city attorney?
Yeah, I do. And the document that I drafted is really highlighted what authority an economic development authority has. And I think there are some broad strokes in there. It could peel it down, provide at least some updates or some guidance for the council with regards to moving that forward. I think an EDA does put the proper structure into a city that has the opportunities for development and the opportunities to move city-owned properties forward. It does give me more authority, if you want to say it that way, as your contracted economic development person. It allows me to go much broader in how we're supporting the city-owned properties in particular, but also other properties, working with developers. So I end up being the front line to that. So that if development does come to me, then I bring it forward to the EDA. The EDA can have discussions. We can give recommendations to that EDA board. The EDA board then can take action and move it forward to the council. So, with regards to drafting a resolution, however all of this plays itself out as regards to whether there is an EDA in place already. If there is, my recommendation, of course, then would be to the council is to assign some, have some conversations around members of that. If you do go with a 5-person board, you're required, to have 2 sitting city council members be a part of that authority. So then you'd need 3 other community members and you'd have to ask them to serve on this. But I think that if I can go back through the agreement, council members on or the documentation that I provided for you and highlight some things if you'd like me to, or provide some information back to the city attorney, I'm happy to do that as well.
Here would be thank you so much. Wait, sorry, any last questions for Mr. Glenn before he leaves? Because he does have to leave here soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one more, Tyler. From your experience, do those other, if it was 5, do those other 3 community members need to be residents of the city of Nisswa, or do they need to have a principal business in Nisswa?
Either or. So if to serve on a committee, to serve on an authority, they have to either own a business within city limits or be a resident of the city itself.
Okay, I think that's very consistent with the other committees too. So, okay. I don't have any more questions. I appreciate it, Tyler.
You're welcome.
Okay, last call, gentlemen. Any questions? Okay,
I can
thank
stick around.
you.
I've got a few.
Yeah, we know you have a hard stop,
Yeah.
so we don't want to hold you up. We
No,
appreciate you being here.
thank you very much for having me here and asking for my assistance.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, gentlemen, the question would be, are you ready? We're missing a council member. Are you ready to vote today? We are meeting again for our regular council meeting on Tuesday at 6 p.m. This is on the agenda for that meeting. Would you prefer to take your time to think about what you want in the resolution to direct our city attorney between now and Tuesday? and we all can take, because this was a robust dialogue, there was inputs that I think not everybody had visibility to coming into this meeting. It gives us all each a few additional days, then it allows the public to be informed, and when we're having the discussion, then to give guidance and direction to the city attorney about crafting a resolution, and then depending on the outcome of that EDA or EDC, then that could be, adopted at our March 17th meeting? Or do you feel like we need to hammer this out and do this today and get this done so that at Tuesday, we're ready to go? Councilmember Fraley, I'll start with you.
I have no problem waiting until Tuesday.
Councilmember London?
I think it'd be best to wait till Tuesday, the city attorney is present.
Okay. Councilmember Zahn, I'm in alignment with the two, that I think it's best to wait till Tuesday, but what is your perspective? Are you comfortable with that? And because we're also missing Councilmember Hall, and he did call this meeting with you, and I feel like it's a little bit unfair to not have him here and have his voice either.
Sure. I mean, my goal was to try to have us have enough meat on the bone to be able to give to the city attorney to have even some form of a draft resolution for us to consider to be able to discuss and vote on for the Tuesday meeting. I feel like we have enough to be able to give to the city attorney to do that. But if the majority there is under the perception that you guys would like to wait until Tuesday's meeting, then it means we'll be doing it in March. So
Which
it's
is
just
not,
pushing
it's
it
only another month off, because February is a shorter month by a day, right?
a full day.
A
Yeah.
full day. So if
I
we're
mean,
all
so to
aligned-
answer your question, I guess,
Yeah.
Mayor, is no, I would not like to wait, but I'm just I like to move forward. But if this is where we're at, I guess that's okay. I mean, Joe's emergency situation with his family, and I don't think anybody can predict that. But just because I've had conversations with him about the prospects of a EDA for a couple of years now, since he's been on council, I feel like I kind of get a gist where he's at, and I think he would probably encourage us to try to move forward with it. But if that's where the majority sits, then I guess we'll have to wait.
I think we just wait and we give it time and we have good inputs. Did you have one more thing, Mr. Glenn, before you have to jump off?
Yes, if I may, Mayor Carnahan and council, I am available in this window. So if you could, I mean, Maggie has all of my contact information. If anybody has any questions or would like more information or details
Yeah.
around how this process moves and what work we are able to do on this, I'm happy to answer any questions you have prior to drafting a resolution. If
Wonderful.
that's what you'd like to do that on Tuesday night. I'm available on Tuesday night as well, so I can be here for council meetings. So just wanted to put that out there. I hope I'm not crossing any whatever, but
No, and you would be comfortable if any of us on the council reached
Absolutely.
out to you prior to Tuesday, just for offline input.
absolutely.
Okay.
I would welcome it.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, with that, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.